Okay, here we go. Well, hello there. This is Charlie with Contemplating the Cosmos, and I'm joined by a very special guest, Mark Sargent. And he probably needs no introduction, but maybe with my a lot of the people that follow my channel, maybe you do, because the majority of the people that follow my channel have a big interest in the paranormal and like near-death experiences and stuff like that. But I've dabbled quite a bit in the Earth cosmology, you might say, or the shape, or whatever the case may be. So I actually, let me just do my little prequel here. I am doing a pre-recording with Mark because I am actually sitting on a strike because YouTube decided that Mark wasn't going to be on my live stream today. So anyways, so we'll just go ahead and do a pre-recording and get the ball rolling, and I'll just have to post it later. So anyways, Mark, you're looking at the byproduct of something that you have created. And this is part of that right here, actually. So you can see that the Earth does spin. Look at it.
That's very nice. That is amazingly accurate. I don't even know where you acquired such an object.
I'll tell you a little back history on this one. Like my brothers, my two brothers and my sister all are thinking I'm a psycho because I decided to venture down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out if what Mark Sargent was saying was true. And now, again, I didn't really listen to you as much as I did like Rob Skiba. I was kind of prefacing that, like when I was reaching out to you, that you had met Rob Skiba and talked to him on a personal level on, I'm sure, several occasions.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, but, when I was explaining this to my brother, his kids just so happened to be kind of observing our discussion. And my niece, who is like, I think 18 now, she's really good at crocheting. You can see here. She's like, I made this for you, Uncle Charlie, because I wanted you to know that this is a globe that we live on. So anyways,
nice.
I appreciated the extra effort that she put into it. But again, indoctrination runs deep. And anyways, so maybe, I know you've been in like probably a million interviews, and I don't know what kind of interview this could be other than just being as transparent as possible. Because honestly, this is the more crude, down to earth podcast that you could possibly be on. And anyways,
that's good.
Maybe you could give me a little tidbit about you. I know a lot of people know that you kind of started with the Flat Earth Clues, and
sure,
you were like a video game guy early on. And
sure, you want me to talk about the stuff beforehand?
Well, sure. Maybe just give a little brief overview of what your philosophy is entering into this mindset.
My philosophy entering into this was that I had an opinion. If you don't get married and have kids, and you get to be 50 or close, let's say mid 40s, you have a lot of free time on your hands, enough time that you can do just about anything you want and research anything you want. And in my case, because I'm old enough to remember when the internet was a new thing, I went down just about every rabbit hole you could think of because there wasn't enough content. You finished the internet sometimes back in the early days. There was only so many pages. And some conspiracies I liked and some conspiracies I didn't. And I have an opinion now on every conspiracy you could possibly dream of right now. And my qualifier for if I thought a conspiracy was legit was that I couldn't improve upon it. And that sounds kind of arrogant, but I've always been a creative problem solver. And I did high-level tech support troubleshooting for a number of years. And that if you give me enough time, I can find a creative way of solving something that may be completely unorthodox. Anyway, so I look at even a conspiracy. I don't look at it like, white hat, black hat. And it's like, oh, because everyone knee-jerk reaction is, oh, obviously there's evil men doing these horrible conspiratorial things. And I come back and I say, well, I don't really care about, I'm not questioning their evilness. What I'm questioning is why they did it. I think rarely do people in handlebar mustaches, wringing their hands, I'll make them pay. I'll make them all pay. Rarely is it that. It's usually it's an ends that justify a means. And the means sometimes is really, really horrible. It's the old question that we throw out to people, which is, would you kill a child to cure cancer? Now, a lot of people would say no, but some people would say yes. And then you throw in the impossible, which is, would you kill your own child? Even though it's the greater good, you can't do it. You can't do it. We've seen it in movies a million times. Let's sacrifice the entire busload of people to rescue that one person out there. The chances of success slim to none, but you're going to do it anyway, mostly for plot devices. All right, that's the whole preface. So when I went into Flat Earth, I looked at it like, okay, I had to answer all the questions that everyone else would ask me, which was who, what, when, where, how, why. Right. It's like, okay. And if I could answer those to myself satisfactorily, then I figured I could do it for anybody else. And so that's why it took me so long. I hammered on it for 9 months, just hammered on this thing.
That's longer than I did, actually.
Lost a lot of sleep. And then finally, when I had it, if you've ever in university, you take these blue book tests, and I've done blue book tests where I'm turning them in and I'm 99.9% sure I've got it. But there's that little nagging thing in the back of your head going, oh, did I ace it or did I not ace it? And you think you missed something. And so that's why I put it out to the internet. I go, look, I can't prove the globe anymore. So here's why. Here's my tell me where I'm wrong. Here's my phone number, all my contact information, track me down, which is how Rob tracked me down. And back in 2015, and that's how it started in the beginning of 2015. And since then, wow, what a ride so far. If it wasn't for the pandemic, I don't even know what the hell I'd be doing. I mean, we did 3 books on Amazon. I don't even know how many interviews, between 400 and 500, I think. A Netflix documentary, conferences, and I don't know how many meetups, don't know how many conferences, and a commercial in Australia, all sorts of fun stuff. And now, it's just, I sit back and look at all this stuff and it's like, wow, all I wanted was a freaking question answered. And
I gotta say, this is my question to you. How do you feel about single-handedly being responsible for the YouTube algorithm shift?
I won't take credit for that. However, I will take credit. Well, I will take credit for speeding up the process. That was weird. I was one of the few people in the world that cared about the YouTube algorithm numbers to the extent, there's lots of YouTubers.
You were blasting those numbers out there. Like, we have like some of the hardest hit like searches for Flat Earth and.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're still out there. They're still on my channel. I was one of the few people. Yeah, there are people. Any really really solid YouTubers will look at the metrics.
Mm-hmm.
What's trending, what's popular, what can I ride on its coattails, no matter what it is. Which is why every single YouTube channel, over 100,000 people, did a flat Earth video at some point. But I was the only guy that was saying. That stupid cheer that we know in high school. It's like, we got more, look at the score, we got more, look at the score. I was pointing at the scoreboard constantly going, look, we got more.
Not just winning, we're
crushing it. It's like, we have more than NASA, we have more than the Beatles, we have more than Lady Gaga. In fact we were running out of targets, we were running out of people in front of us on the race. Which is why the my one of my favorites was catching Donald Trump. In 2018, where I said that he was always 1 million ahead of us, and I was looking at it, working out the math. It's like, it's going to take us at least 6 months to catch him, and then like 4 weeks, later, somebody calls me. It's like, we caught him. We freaking caught him. It's like, you got to be kidding me. and I made a video called "Flat Earth Passes the President of the United States." And it's still on there, still out there now. And that's when the boys at YouTube, the super nerds, the people that know what the hell they're doing, that's when they shut it all down. When they came back and they just quietly removed the search bar, the search number results from YouTube for all time back in 2018. And it was really, and again, they did it because who's going to miss it? We missed it. But a lot of other people didn't. And so to this day, even though YouTube is owned by Google, the biggest search engine in the world, the search engine 101 search results is not there anymore. So I there's things, look, the community has to take credit. I mean, I've got copies of magazines on my desk, right? Popular Science and Newsweek and Skeptic, where Flat Earth, was just crushing it. I'm not going to take credit for those. The community takes credit for those. And I'm not going to say I single-handedly did anything. What I did was I was the catalyst. There was already flat Earth material. Okay, I'll give you, you want to know my secret? I'll tell you my secret.
Go for it. Let's hear this.
There was already flat Earth material out there by a handful of people, which you saw in the documentary.
Eric Dubay was putting stuff out already.
Eric Dubay had stuff that was already out there. Matt Boylan, he didn't have the Matt Boylan was out there. There were some people from Europe that were out. They were doing stuff. The problem is that it wasn't easy enough to digest. It wasn't easy enough to understand. So what I did was, because I'm because of my software training, I trained people in very broad software, boiled it down for blue collar factory workers, how to understand it. It's like, okay, this software is really, really huge. You only need to know 10% of it, and here's the 10%. I'm going to break that down into parts that you will never be able to forget. And I took that into Flat Earth, and I said, okay, I want to break this down to where the average person will just not glaze over, and because there was no math, right? There was barely any science. It was really just connecting the dots. I said, if this true, is this true, is this true, then everything must point to Flat Earth. That's all I did. And what happened was, so I ended up being the 101 book, because there was no 101 book. Eric Dubay was second year very easily. Matt Boylan, second year. The people in Europe, second year. So what happened was, and I heard this from so many people, which was, I did the Flat Earth clues. Oh, I get it. It's Flat Earth. Right? And then they turned around and they said, oh, I can understand Eric Dubay's work now. And so I am known as the first year. If Flat Earth was a university, I'm the first year professor. I'm the guy that you talk about in past tense by your third year.
Yeah,
which is hilarious. People, if you know anyone that's like a big reader or in university, they'll say, "Oh yeah, well, my freshman year I was into such and such, but now I'm into this." Oh yeah, he was great. He was great. That book's on the shelf, gathering dust. And I don't mind. I absolutely don't mind, because I get apologies all the time. It's like,
you're a good stepping stone. Yeah.
There you go. There's my T-shirt. I'm the stepping stone.
Well, I
But
mean, in some ways it was for me. I mean, I granted indirectly I was affected by you in that way. I heard the interview with Rob Skiba
oh, you
after
did,
after he was on the or you were on Canary Cry Radio. That's what it was.
right?
And,
That
and
was
then Rob heard you
yep,
and was like, "Holy crap, I got to call this guy." And now I had been following Rob Skiba before I ever heard anything about Flat Earth, right?
right,
And I always appreciated his, his biblical stuff because I mean that's kind of the area that I branched from, and so as I've ventured down this road, I started, and then also the whole concept of philosophy being our viewing lens for understanding anything. I started realizing that everybody branches out from a bias perspective,
right.
and they're just trying to validate it, and that's it.
Yep.
So I guess you could say I forget if it was early 2015, April maybe,
For
when
what? Rob's video?
Rob got together.
April 15th, 2015.
Yeah, yeah,
Episode number 27 on TFR. I only know this by heart because Rob included it in a slide for his presentations from then moving forward, which was April 15th, 2015, the day Mark Sargent ruined my life. And I didn't even know he was going to do it. And then the first conference, which was from the documentary, I had people come up. It's like, do you know what Rob put up on screen? I go, no, what? What did he put up? But he did that for a reason, because he said he did it because I was the out. I was the insurance policy in case something went wrong. So in case all of a sudden somebody came out and said, oh yeah, by the way, here's the evidence that crushes Flat Earth forever, right? And Flat Earth loses. That way Rob could say, well, I was only 98% in. Here's the guy that steered me down the wrong path. Brilliant way of doing it, but it worked. And because it got laughs during the show, during his first thing, he was never going to not include it. That slide was always going to be there. It was too easy to do at my expense, which was fine. Totally good. I loved it.
Yeah. So, I mean, granted, I when Rob kind of ventured down that road with you in April, I kind of backed off a little bit from him. I'm like, I just don't know if I'm
Lots
ready.
of people did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I completely dismissed him or anything, but I got in that mindset like, I got it. Honestly, there's just too many things to embrace in order to accept everything with this concept. I mean,
sure.
you gotta see the flaws in the moon landing, and that's actually the thing that I had to embrace first, because I didn't really do any investigation on the moon landing.
Right.
So, anyways, but then I ventured down that road, of course, and lo and behold, I ended up deep in this rabbit hole, and so I would say probably fall of 2015. I would say 6 months later, I decided to make my first videos on this 4BZ Truth channel. I had the channel for a long time. I just never made videos. But I'm like, I'm ready to make some content. And so I ended up doing like a 3-part rant where I called it Flat Earth Philosophy. And these were the first topics that I ever addressed on my channel, was the Flat Earth. And thank you for helping me indirectly motivate me to start this channel, producing content, I guess.
Nice. Well, good for you. That's awesome. And I'm flattered.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not going to give you all the credit, but, anyways, see, I met Tiger Dan through those 3 videos. I met,
you met Tiger Dan. Oh no, you ran into Tiger Dan
just on my video. He commented on my video.
Yeah.
And Phuket Word, I guess.
Yep.
They were, both of them were like one of my first 10 subscribers.
Really?
Yeah. So, anyways, but obviously Tiger Dan flipped out, and Phuket Word's actually doing a lot for the community. And but anyways, so the main reason I decided to reach out to you, because honestly, and I called this flattening the curve, because how nowadays the way
I've heard that term before. Where have I heard that? Flattening the curve. Boy, I'll think of it. Keep going.
Are you being sarcastic or?
Yes, of course I'm being
I'm kind of gullible. So
Yeah,
no,
you got to remember my YouTube channel was put into YouTube jail for 3 months because I did about 25 rants about that topic.
oh no. Well,
Yeah.
I'm already sitting on a strike for a video that was like almost 2 years old. Anyways,
My
which
oldest
is
my
kind of
oldest is 4. Just so
what's
you know.
that?
My oldest strike is 4 years old. I
Uh,
got a strike 4 years after the fact.
oh, are you serious?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was an interview with David Weiss, believe it or not, that David did with another channel, and I just threw it up on mine. And the guys still can't get the taste out of their mouths, so in fact, they did last month. They came back, and it's like, I got this strike. I'm going, I don't even recognize this video. And then the guy that I work with, he goes, that's from 4 years ago. I go, holy smokes, it's got to be a record. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I don't know. I mean, I somehow was on their radar because of this you know.
Well, do you want me to
video.
tell you why you're on the radar now? When I started 2 years ago, and I'll be careful because I know you're going to post this on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Try. Okay, so 2 years ago, when all this started, I started doing a rant series about my thoughts on the whole thing, about all sorts of different things. And then I made a video called again, I'll be careful, a video called The Coming Gattaca this year, about how we're heading towards some sort of two-tier society. And they hit that thing in an hour, and then they start going through my back catalog, and like a person sat down at a desk, no automated stuff, and started going through. And I got 11 guideline strikes in 72 hours. Guideline strikes. It was
I didn't know
staggering.
you could get more than one in a row.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can, I mean, it was like a watching a henchman get machine gunned in a movie. You're like, blah, 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 blah. And I was going, there's no point even watching him. He's going down. So let's go cut to another scene. Right. And that's what I felt. It's like, well, that's over. The channel's history. I mean, if you get 3 guidelines, forget about copyright strikes, right? Copyright strikes, you can work with the people to maybe get them knocked off. And I got lucky. I dodged, but once you get 3, it's a judgment call. They can just poof, wipe the channel out. And for whatever reason, just very recently, like only a few weeks ago, my admin friend, he comes back, he goes, you're never going to believe this, the channel's back up, or the channel's up free and clear. You can post new things. I'm going, how's that even possible? And in fact, not only that, here's where it gets weirder. So after the 3rd strike, apparently, because the system can only handle 3 strikes. Remember, after 3 strikes, you're on this, death row.
Mm-hmm.
After 3 strikes, every strike that came in apparently was meaningless because there was no column to put it in. I got a strike back in September 21st. I got another guideline strike. There's nowhere to put it.
So did you have to put in an appeal for all of those, or
no? I did no such thing.
Okay.
I appealed nothing. Well, what's the point? Seriously, I mean, because it's all because
it is pointless to appeal, because every time I've gotten a strike, I appealed and they just didn't even look at it. I swear that they don't analyze anything if you appeal.
Nope. It's an automated response. It's time delay where you send it, and roughly between 2 and 8 hours later or whatever, they'll send you a thing back saying, "Oh, we reviewed your blah blah blah. Unfortunately, we aren't." That's a bunch of crap.
Well, yeah,
Anyway,
I put out a video. In fact, the last one that they just did a strike on, I swear, like the only reason they struck it is because I was mocking them on the video. And what it was is me ranting about like, oh, I'm gonna get a strike on this video or whatever. And,
they have.
and they called it hate speech. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Why? I mean, I'm not a hateful guy. I'm actually very loving on all my videos.
Oh, I'm a hateful guy. I hate all sorts of people.
Yeah.
I especially hate the Eskimos, as you know. For various reasons. Their unsafe architecture, their the whaling, their sense of fashion. It's all horrible. It's all terrible.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, the point is that would not surprise me. Once I was on the radar, a bunch of other people were on the radar. People that were reproducing my videos were on the radar. And I felt terrible, but at the same time, it's like, look, the rules have changed. Now you can't talk about certain. There's three things, like, for example, real quick, that you can't talk about anymore on YouTube. Can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
False flags, can't talk about them.
That's the thing that triggered my strike.
Oh yeah, you cannot talk about false flags. You can't talk about the election.
Yeah.
In any way. You cannot criticize the 2020 election in any way. And medical misinformation. You can't.
Oh, yeah.
You can't talk about.
That's the only strikes I've ever gotten were medical misinformation. I did one where I was talking about our former president, but it wasn't even promoting him. It was actually mocking Christians in some way, where I was like saying, okay, you were saying that he's going to get a second term because that's what the Lord told you. The Lord told me, and
yeah.
and I actually was calling it out. I was kind of making a mockery of it, and it had nothing to do with promoting our former president. I don't even like to say the name because I got a strike for it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Well, what I did I think it's one of the videos that wasn't taken down, called I Scream, You Scream, Red Team, Blue Team, which is actually the video was officially called For All the Marbles, which is, look, the media is blue, right? And we all know that, with the exception of just, let's just call it blue. Well, that's a problem. I mean, if the media is almost entirely blue, then you can do pretty much whatever you want. And now, once you start tightening the screws, you can, yes, there's all sorts of smaller venues, but the big players out there, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Google, and they now have their unified front. It's tough. It's really, really tough. I mean, I have friends that, their channels are gone, and they've tried to do backup channels. It's a constant battle. I don't know. My irony is, I hope I hit 100,000 subs because you get a little plaque, and I hope they send it to me as the channel's burning down.
For supporting our movement, YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten more. I've got a special copyright folder in my email box, which I keep with every copyright thing I've ever had.
Right there.
Yeah,
all the strikes you get or whatever.
I've gotten a strike. I haven't gotten a ton of strikes for different things. I got a strike for just about every category you get a strike in over the last 6 years, including a thumbnail. I got a copyright strike for using an image in a thumbnail. It wasn't even in the video.
Oh, that's weird.
Where this kid from Sacramento, Northern California, where he took a picture of the city, and he said he sent to the newspaper. The newspaper used it, and it was up there. There was no things on it, no copyright things on it. Took it. Not that I would care anyway. And he like threw a strike. Now, eventually, I appealed it, and YouTube sided in my favor. But it's like, it's amazing what people will do. Anyway, sorry. Anyway,
I'm surprised they would even side with you, to be honest with you. I just have never seen it. In all the time that I've had my channel, I've probably had like 5 strikes, but I've had warnings on several occasions. I've had like
hell, man.
3.
Well, the problem is, if you get 3 strikes, what they do is they lock the channel, and you have to resolve one of them within 2 weeks or something like that. Yeah. And if you can't resolve one of them, you basically have to, at that point, you've got to contact whoever's throwing the strikes, and you've got to have one of those people back off. And if they don't, the channel is gone. And
I've never gotten any copyright. I mean, I've had copyright claims before. I've never gotten.
Oh, no, copyright claims. That's I get those three times a week. I almost never put up stuff that doesn't have a copyright claim, with the exception of interviews. Yeah. Interviews, for the most part, no. But because I use copyrighted music, and the music people, they want their nickels, and I get it. It's like I don't care.
Yeah, I can't even monetize anymore. I lost my original email that this was attached to, and I somehow, anyways, that's beside the point. So they probably owed me like I don't know, $100 or something.
Probably. I was finally demonetized permanently this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and only because I was talking about the medical misinformation stuff.
Yeah, somebody was saying you're a shill, so I don't know. If you're making
Obviously.
money, you probably shouldn't show your face anymore. Just kidding.
No. I've no, the shield thing's been there forever, and I don't really, I don't really care. You know who the guy that came up with that was Eric DeBay.
Probably, yeah.
Where well, no, it's not even probably.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I saved the emails from Matt, he was in the documentary, which was Matt when it was only just a few of us that were doing this back in 2015. Matt wrote me and said, "Yeah, Eric does well. Eric's people also are writing me saying he doesn't like what your stance. It's like, and so they said you have to go along with Eric's. You have to be aligned with Eric's perspectives, or we will discredit you." And it's like, okay, I don't even know who you are. No offense, but it's like, what the hell? It's like, and Matt was siding with Eric. It's like, whatever. Look, I'm going to do my own thing, which I tend to do anyway, and the problem is that Eric, they were true to their word, which was, it's like, okay, we'll try to discredit you. And so they immediately started calling me, shill, government agent, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And where a lot of people missed this in the documentary, which was Eric got a hold of, if you remember ODD TV.
Yeah, Matt
Yeah, he convinced Matt that Patricia and I were both working for the government. And so ODD came out and said, yeah, anyone that bought tickets for that first conference, don't go. And so remember, this was non-refundable tickets.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely sold out. And yet there were 100 and something seats that were empty. I mean, they burned the money rather than show up with this thing. It's like, really?
Yeah.
So, and it has never gone away. It has never gone away.
Well, anyways, I didn't want to necessarily rabbit trail on that because I don't buy into all that, because a lot of people, they'll just claim shill on anybody that they disagree with.
Sure.
So, it doesn't matter. I don't really care if anybody disagrees with me. I like to hash out the details on certain issues, right? So yeah. That's why I call this Contemplating the Cosmos, because we're all approaching this from a different angle. Whatever that angle may be.
Right.
Anybody, if you're willing to admit that you don't have 100% of the truth, let's just try to figure it out together.
Sure.
And, that's kind of my shtick on this whole thing, and I'm trying to figure out, because honestly, and let me just brief you a little bit on a little bit of background with my rabbit trails that I've taken through my journey. You can actually say that the majority of the time I've spent was with near-death experiences. Because I'm very fascinated that there's so many corroborating type stories of people having out-of-body experiences, experiencing something like they can recollect that was happening to them outside of their body, and they're completely dead.
Sure.
So anyways, not just that, but there's a lot of people saying the same things about the patterns of how they die, how they see a dark realm, or how they see the light, or how they see a tunnel, or how they see a life review. There's all these different things that you can literally, you have a template for near-death experiences. So now the thing that kind of got me after a while when I was looking into this is that you could have 5 near-death experiences that have the same exact template, but they have different deities. Do you know what I'm saying? So the thing that bugs me about that is, I looked to one of my favorite ones, which was this guy that was an atheist or whatever, that saw Jesus in the form of light. And I thought that was really exciting when I first heard about it. He was very emotional about it, said it was the most real thing he ever seen in his whole existence. And he carried with him after he came back to life, right? So, but then I've met and I've interviewed a lot of near-death experiencers now. And now, granted, I think I lean more toward the Christian perspective in a lot of ways, because I started realizing that everybody interprets things the way they want sometimes. So, if somebody sees that template that the next person sees, maybe they say that that's Krishna, or maybe they say that's Jesus, just depending on their perspective. Now, anyways, so that's kind of where I was like, okay, and a lot of, and I filtered a lot of that through the view of like this. I started thinking, why do so many people see this when they're floating up into the air? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I started talking to a lot of people that were just like, don't go toward the light, because it's all a deception. They're trying to reel us into some sort of reincarnation loop that we're in prison. Have you ever heard stuff like this? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I remember. I start with flat Earth, so there's nothing new under the sun. Hit me.
Yeah, so I remember asking Dave Weiss on Flat Earth podcast. I did one of those little call-in things where I forget what it's called, but anyways, I asked them what they thought about near-death experiences and when people saw the globe coming up, and they responded with, well, there's people that have seen the flat Earth too. So
It's
and
true.
I was like, you know what? I guess that's true, because a lot of people, and again, I start wondering if everything's. I'm really kind of getting into a rabbit hole here, but I guess the bottom line is a lot of people would actually say we are experiencing this reality through an extension of God, so to speak. So, and a lot of people interpret that from near-death experiences too, as like we are all intelligence that are sourced from the same thing. And it's not necessarily our interpretation of something from this vantage point is moot, because it doesn't matter how we interpret it. It's just really there's only one source, I guess,
Right.
ultimately. So the thing that doesn't really make sense to me is that everybody goes back to, or comes here to experience something for the sake of this quote unquote God or whatever. And I'm not trying to say that I don't believe in Jesus or whatever now, but I've ventured down the roads of trying to understand why there are different perspectives, and philosophy really has penetrated my reality. And that's why I didn't really stay with the globe or the flat Earth discussion for I don't know, a few years. I kind of broke away after about 2016, maybe 17.
Sure.
I just kind of felt like, meh. I mean, I'm kind of tired of the same old like arguing, and it just, a lot of the arguments are just getting old, and people are just slandering each other, just bashing, and I don't want to be in that discussion. So I just decided to go down the roads of like near-death experience. One of my videos hit like 250,000 views, and that's probably one of that's my most popular video.
Nice.
And have you ever heard of Contemplating the Cosmos? I don't know if you've seen any. Well,
It's possible, but I look at so much
it's
stuff.
new. I mean, I've interviewed a bunch of people.
Oh, cool.
I'm kind of like the Patricia Steer guy version of Patricia Steer. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. I'm nothing like her. But I do like to interview flat earthers. I like to interview near-death experiencers. I like to. I mean, the other hot potatoes, so to speak. So, all right. So, I actually wanted to interview Patricia at one point, but I'm just kind of a small fry. So.
She's tough to get a hold of nowadays, believe it or not. In fact, she was supposed to attend the big conferences that still happening right now down in South Carolina, and I know that she backed out. She wasn't speaking; she was just going to attend. So,
okay, so. Okay, I'm going to segue into this thought process. Okay, so because I did want to talk to you about flat Earth.
sure.
And so I have an employee that I was talking to. I try to talk to him about like the flat Earth and stuff, and he, to this day, he's just like in that kick of like the alien invasion and stuff, and how aliens are probably controlling everything. And I'm not arguing against that in any way. In some ways, I'm almost thinking there are some beings that are manifesting in our physical realm, controlling things or whatever.
Sure.
But he was saying that that documentary, he's like, the flat earthers proved themselves wrong. How they made it sound like, at the end when Jaren's like, oh, I didn't get it or whatever, and then
the power of editing, and we can go into that if you want.
Oh, of course. I mean, I've talked about it on several occasions.
Yeah.
But obviously, and Globebusters guy, what's his name?
Bob.
Bob. Yeah, Bob. He had that. What
Ring
was it?
laser gyroscope.
Yes. So that was the other one, like where we proved ourselves wrong, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's where my coworker was like, "Yeah, see," and he actually knows who you are, so I think he'll be very impressed that
Oh boy,
on here.
what's his name?
What's that?
What's his name? First name?
Kevin.
Kevin.
Give,
That's funny.
give
That
Kevin
is
a message from Mark Sargent.
that is really funny. Well, no, that's funny because I did for the conference because I wasn't going to be there. They said do a quick pre-record thing of you saying hi to everybody, and I made a fake ISIS video where I was doing I was dressed in a whole balaclava thing with a terrorist background, an ISIS background, and it was a whole. I screwed up, because I was calling it ISIS X, and my producer in the earpiece, you could hear him say, no, it's ISIS K. Now it's like you weren't at the meeting. We changed it, blah blah blah. And I said, who the hell proposed this? Right? He goes, Kevin, and I go, wait a minute, K stands for Kevin, and so hey. So yeah, thank you, Kevin, for being the reason why it's called ISIS K. There you go.
Yeah. So, anyways, I don't want to, I don't really care about his perspective necessarily. I just like the discussions because we talk Bigfoot and we talk aliens and stuff. And so, like, I'll agree with him about the alien thing,
right?
But I won't call them ETs. I won't call them ETs because I don't necessarily believe that there might be something external that I don't actually feel like.
I mean, we've gotten more sophisticated over the years. Yeah, 40, 50 years ago, it was like, oh, they have to be from Mars and Venus and Jupiter and things like that. Not anymore, they don't. Now it's like, in fact, why would you think they're from Mars and Venus and Jupiter? We've never seen any lights or anything coming off those worlds, if you believe they're worlds at all. And our perspective was like, I will tell you the same thing I told everybody else, which is before I got into flat Earth, I remember living out in Colorado, beautiful, clean, high altitude air. And somebody told me get some night vision binoculars, start watching the sky. And I did. And the sky is freaking crawling with things, absolutely crawling with them. But I think
satellites? Sorry.
What?
There's satellites.
Oh, obviously. Yeah. Satellites that slow down and speed up and go ballistic
and turn directions.
And turn directions. It's amazing. Yeah. No, when you see them for yourself with night vision, you're just going, what the hell am I looking at? But do I think all these things flying around are from other places? They don't have to be. You probably heard me say it. I think they're older versions of us. I think they are previous civilizations that just happen to be probably stuck here in different things, and they've got access to unified field engines. And so they basically got the Jetsons cars that we never got. And the future that was robbed from us, they got. And so they get to go and do all these sorts of fun things and transportation's a freaking.
Do you think that they're responsible for like the monolithic structures and things like that? Or
sure. I mean, come on, the old civilizations, even ancient aliens, as compromised as they are, got some things right, which is we're not the first people here. Right, the sunken cities off of Japan, the sunken cities off of India, the Bosnian pyramids, the real pyramids, Bimini Road, Puma Punku. It goes on and on and on and on and on. We have no idea how they got things done. I mean, I actually had the pleasure of going to the real pyramids, and I heard it's like, look, if you know anything about engineering, you stand at the base of the pyramids, you look at them, and you say. And then you look at Cairo behind you, because Cairo, the pictures look like the pyramids are in the middle of the desert. They are not. They are literally within a golf shot of Cairo. Yeah. Cairo is back.
You see it from like a hotel.
The hotels are right next to them. Well, obviously because they want to be really, really close to them.
Yeah.
And when you turn around and look at Cairo and the state that city's in, and you look at these things, you're going, yeah, these guys had nothing to do with the building of this place. Nothing at all. Human beings had nothing to do with the building of the pyramids. Why? Because the pharaohs just came out, we built it in 30 years. There isn't a single piece of written or papyrus or it's burned. There's nothing. There's no records of how it was done. The pharaohs would have said, oh, well, look at this amazing engineering achievement. Here's how we did it. Nope. Nothing. Yeah. They just found them. They just found them and took credit for them. And that's brilliant. That's what you would do, which is you find these things like, yeah, we're going to just tell people we built these and we're going to be gods. And they were. That's all it is. It's like people, every generation, it's like, well, we can't compare ourselves to them. Look what they built.
The elongated skulls, right?
Yes.
Like Peru and stuff. I've heard people say that the long hats that the pharaohs had actually were the elongated skull people.
I can't remember his name. There's one particular pharaoh who was apparently really, really weird looking.
Yeah,
And
this is
he
the one
was
that looks like Obama.
even more. Yeah. Yeah. But he was really, really weird looking, very different. And he was the one that changed everything. And when he died, people were freaked out by him. Apparently they were scared to death of this guy because he was just super creepy. I mean, as alien as you can remember, this was back in a time when alien wasn't even a concept. And as soon as he died, they changed everything back to the old rules and the old ways. And they tried to get rid of the memory of him as much as possible. And I can't remember his name, but it's good stuff. You should look it up if you get a chance.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated by all that because I feel like that's a huge part of the reality that we just don't understand. And I think that a lot of it's largely ignored by mainstream just because.
Mainstream are the scribes. They're the bards of the authority, the elite, and that is look, history. The quote, history is written by the winners, but that's not the better quote. Is history is just lies that are agreed upon, which is whoever's in power, they want to spin it a certain way. I mean, hell, look at America. 5 years ago, we were considering removing slavery and the atomic weapon program from the history books entirely. Specifically the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Well, there are two demographics that really don't want those pieces of history removed. One would be Black Americans, and the other would be Japanese Americans. They're like, like the hell you're going to remove those things. Because America, the point is that America always wanted to be the white hats. They always want to be the good guys. That's the image. We're larger than life. USA, go team, rah, rah. But we've beaten the crap out of a lot of countries to get this far. We are a country built on colonization, plain and simple. But when you're doing that, once you've won the war, you have to spin it so to make it, you got to give your people a reason to cheer. You can't do the whole with the opposite of like not even Nazi Germany. The Roman Empire. The Roman Empire, it was clear cut. You came home as a military force. People are like, who'd you conquer this year? And it's like, I'll tell you, we brought all the spoils of war. Hooray. That's great. Yeah. We're just going to keep conquering. And the public wanted it because that's what they expected.
Yeah.
And we're not. We're going the other way, which is like we've achieved all these things and forget all the bad stuff we did.
Often I reflect on the fact that I don't know how anybody back in the 30s and 40s could have let somebody like Hitler rise into power. Now, granted, a lot of people might argue that whole history was fudged to cause us to believe that Germany was the bad guy. But
well, you mean when you say how anyone, like how the Germans could?
So how the people allowed the government system to rise up. So like the Nazi Party, right? So
patriotism, plain and simple.
That's kind of what I see it today. I'm seeing how people are allowing that kind of system to rise up now. So it's like, I guess it makes sense now.
But back then it was this groundswell that turned into, they maximized it to where you didn't dare. Of course, there were dissenters. You didn't dare go against it because these guys were frothing at the mouth. I mean, you saw the rallies. The rallies were insane. There's never been a rally, system like that, even today, where everyone was just, it's like, they were on this precipice and they were just like waiting for someone to cut the chain. And the second they did, it's like, take Europe. It's like, yeah, let's take Europe. And if there would have been, I mean, for the love of God, which is why, I don't know if you saw the sci-fi show, The Man in the High Castle, I think it was, where it was, you ought to watch it if you get a chance, which is an alternate history. I'm surprised they made it, to be perfectly honest, to where Germany won the war. and what happened. And basically Germany and Japan kind of shared the United States, which wouldn't have happened. Like Japan got the West Coast and Germany got the rest. But that's where they were headed. I mean, there's been all sorts of different books over the years that said that in different timelines Germany won the war in many of those instances. In fact, the only reason they didn't win is because Pearl Harbor was bombed. That was it. Because the whole point, a lot of people don't know, which is Germany, their whole plan was to take the United States without firing a shot. Remember, there was a whole bunch of German citizens already over here. Minnesota, Wisconsin, ton.
Yeah, Warner von Braun's one of the well-known ones, right?
Yeah, but there's, I mean, well, my family is from, I know a whole bunch of German people. In fact, there were German people that were called back. In fact, they made note of it in Band of Brothers, where they were called, they did full pay or newspaper ads in all American newspapers saying, look, we need you to come over to Germany because, we're going to start this war soon. And anyway, if Pearl Harbor isn't attacked, then because Japan, remember, was temporarily allied with Germany, then the United States doesn't get involved. The whole point was they were going to take everything. The United States was the big gem. That's the piece of steak they wanted. And they were just going to come in and say, oh, we're going to fly dual flags. And then eventually they were going to fly one flag. And that was it. It was never. And the people, I'm sorry, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but there's a rule, which is men in power rarely relinquish it. And you've got an entire government system over here in the United States where like, they saw this coming and they're like, yeah, we're all going to be out of a job here. I mean, all of us, every single one of us, they are going to take they're basically just going to leave the buildings, the Lincoln Memorial. They're going to leave all of Washington, D.C., the buildings intact, and they're just going to roll in here and kick everybody out. And that's why the conspiracy was Pearl Harbor allowed to be attacked? And then the question is, well, it's too big a question, which is, do the ends justify the means? If it isn't attacked, we're speaking German right now. Yeah. Plain and simple. That is all. People don't realize how dire it was. Europe was gone. Russia was burning.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I feel like, the narrative that they present is that Russia, they didn't defeat Russia. The winter defeated Germany there.
Well,
they didn't fortify well, so they spread thin in certain areas.
Russia had always been afraid of Germany, kind of like China had always been afraid of Japan. There are certain, we'll use a sports analogy. There's certain teams that don't do well against other teams. You see them in the stats. It's like, why the hell do these, this football team always lose to this football team, even though it makes no sense, right? They always seem to lose, especially at home. Japan beat the crap out of China on a regular basis for whatever reason. And Germany always hammered Russia. So when this thing started, Russia was getting clobbered. And they I give all the credit to Russia. They threw everything they had at them. I mean, just men. There were, the stories of where they would send two men in pairs because they ran out of rifles. The first man didn't have the man behind didn't have a rifle because once the first guy got shot, they grabbed his rifle and kept going. That's how. And they lost 22 million people. In that war. That's a huge amount, ridiculous amount. But the winter, the poor planning and Germany knew they were in trouble once America was involved. They knew that and the not to get off on a history thing, but they rolled the dice. And if you've ever seen the movie Patton,
that sounds familiar,
with George C. Scott as General Patton, right? One of the big American generals, who was just a loose cannon. He was so respected by the Germans. The Germans basically said, wherever Patton's going to be for D-Day, that's where we're focusing our forces. And so Patton was this big diversion. They're saying, oh no, Patton's going to be here, way away from Normandy, way away from and so the Germans like, all right, we have to roll the dice. We're going to think he's going to lead the D-Day, and he wasn't. And that was it. And D-Day rolled in through France, and the Germans fought, but most of their forces were out of position.
Yeah.
Anyway, Had they been in position, who knows? Because if D-Day would have been stopped, oh, I don't even know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like in some ways, and again, a lot of what I do, I try to avoid conjecture or assumptions in any way.
Yeah.
But because like I often think like, okay, yeah, what if the Nazis, prevailed, or what if this is just a resurgence that's repackaged, the way that it is now. Maybe it was never about the Nazis. Maybe they are all in cahoots, kind of like the whole, Antarctic Treaty type of thing.
At the highest levels, yes, there are things. The first rule of power has never ever changed, which is stay hidden. The curse of being the puppet masters is you can't be on the stage simultaneously. In fact, Napoleon, I'm pretty sure he was the one that quoted this, and he said, "Never put yourself in a position where you can be overthrown," which is the public can't come get you if they don't know who you are. The pitchforks and torch crowd, they can't find you if they don't know your name. And so you've got, people say, oh, the president of the United States is the most powerful man in the free world. It's like, no, he's not. But it's a great illusion that we put forward. I mean, the fact that you would say that, this one man had somebody stand behind him with a briefcase with a big shiny red button, and all you had to do was open it up and hit the button and the nukes would fly. Come on. It's great movie material. But no one actually, no one should believe that, because that's not how it would work. At the highest levels, it is a completely structured system that they're constantly working on, and they do some sinister things to get things done. And but anyway, it's a whole nother topic for another time.
Yeah, I can't imagine that Joe Biden has anything to do with.
God, no. But no, but I mean, did not the guy before him going all the way? I mean, there's a running joke like that Reagan would wake up out of a sleepwalk and just hit the button, and you wouldn't. That doesn't happen when you get into the military situation. It's a series of people, but then there are levels of power above that.
That's obvious. I mean, I can't sleepy Joe Biden or mumbling Joe Biden. They always say like all these different things. Like, right. I don't think that he has the capacity to control the amount of control that he has. I guess
he's barely the only reason. I have a friend of mine who in the ex-military who's told me several times, like Biden should have been gone by summer. But then we started looking at who is his vice president. And she's got that nervous tick, and it's really disconcerting. That the fact that she, when she's asked a tough question, she starts, laughing. That whole thing. It's like, yeah, holy smokes, that's something you see out of television sitcoms, right? Like it's a poker giveaway. I mean, you don't even go to the poker table if you get something like that. And because of that, they're like, yeah, we can't. She will be worse than him just kind of glazing over. Let's just shoot him with a whole bunch of vitamins, talk for 20 minutes, and get him off stage as fast as possible.
You know how they say that they like to give away what they're going to be doing, kind of thing. Like they have to give us a precursor, like Event 201 or something,
right?
And I often think like Bible prophecy. Now I don't know how much of that you've ever investigated, but everybody's talking about it nowadays.
Then they should. In fact, I did a rant specifically where I read, and I won't go into the details, where I read specifically all the good parts of Revelation 13 and 14.
Yep, the mark of the beast and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So I was thinking like, okay, obviously the beast system is rising up. Yep. And the mark system is ramping up.
Right.
and I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm almost gonna say that the G word that they put into the I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. There's like some sort of control mechanism inside of it, and so again, I don't know. It's all speculation at this point. I have no idea. Right. But the thing that bothers me is that we can't even have this discussion without being at risk of being taken down. Now I'm just talking about the hypotheticals because I don't know. I'm not going to say I know anything about this.
There was something, Rob and I actually talked about this early in the spring before he started really committing to the whole seed thing, and he agreed with me in that it's like, yeah, if it certainly has all the earmarks of it, meaning right now, right, there's a lot of things I can't do right now. Meaning there's a lot of things I can't buy, and there's things I can't sell right now. And because I haven't done, I haven't done a certain thing, and it's just like, okay, if this isn't that, or because there's a lot of people, basically the debate was with Rob and I. It wasn't much of a debate. Was and I don't want to go into it too much, which was the whole pre-tribulation, post-tribulation, which is there are huge amounts of Christians in the pews that are saying, well, this can't be that because the rapture hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and I'm not in that camp.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, so wait a minute. So if it sounds like a duck and it acts like a duck, this isn't that duck because that duck comes later, in the story after you're gone. That's your entire basis for this. And it's like, no. As a kid, I grew up evangelical Christian. And I was one of those people that I was one of those irritating guys that during Sunday school, I would be constantly thinking, it's like, okay, I'm trying to work out the logic here. And my thing was, okay, so what if the rapture doesn't happen in the timeline when you think it's going to happen? Do you have a backup plan? Well, no, we don't need a backup plan because that's when it's going to happen. It's like, yeah, but what if it doesn't? Right? And it's like, and so now we're at that point where it's like, okay. And
most of the people that I interact with, as far as Christians are concerned, don't believe in a pre-tribulation rapture. But
there's a lot that do.
I mean, there's a lot that do, but usually those are the people that are just raised into it and they don't really have any reason or foundation for why. It's even, and a lot of it goes back to interpretation too. I mean, because you could actually say, oh, well, there's a first, it comes back for the bride first, and then the second coming is a different thing.
Well, I always considered it just clever old school marketing, which is your religions tend to attract more people if it's more positive. And what's more positive than saying, yeah, all that really, really bad stuff, in those later things in Revelation, yeah, you don't have to worry about that because you're going to be gone by then. And that was let's face it, that's the hook, which is, oh yeah, we don't have to worry about that. Let's sing songs, everybody. And that's what they did. And so nobody, I mean, I have talked to so many people along those lines, like, because Revelation was one of the big things for me. Right. And I analyzed a lot of different stuff in there. And when I talk to people, it's like, oh yeah, I don't even want to look at that. People don't like looking at negative things.
Yeah, you're right.
It's uncomfortable. And so I get it. I totally get it. But when, we reach this stage, it's like, look, the world around you right now is not what it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
There's some water, and I know it's the boiling frog thing. You're turning up the heat slowly, and people are like, yeah, I know there's gaps in the supermarkets, and I know those shops are closed, and I know all this, and I know all that, but it's not that bad. It's like, yeah, you wouldn't have said that back in January of 2020.
Nobody would have believed you if you
no one would have believed you.
Yeah.
If you would have said that people would have stayed home because we sent, we paid them so much, ridiculous. That should have been, by the way, that should have been the big giveaway. I'm a big believer in plot points. And that is, if I know the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, if you're giving people way above and beyond unemployment benefits, way above. I mean, you're giving them bonuses. Who the hell? When did we ever do that?
How much more incentive can you give somebody to not go back to work?
Right. When has that ever happened? Ever? To where there are so many people I have talked to that said, "Oh yeah, why would I go back to work? I'm actually going to be making like $10 an hour less by going back to work. I'm just going to sit here." And by the way, what was it? The average, and we know this because the average American over the last 2 years has gained 30 pounds, right?
Yeah.
Just from staying home, staying home, watching Netflix and eating Malamars or Nutter Butters, whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to say right now, Mark, you have a kind of a demeanor about you that is mostly positive about the way that everything's kind of unfolding. And I've always gotten that from kind of your talks that I've seen. And for me, I'm not doom and gloom in any way whatsoever. I am addressing reality the way I see it. And so like when I was saying that, the book of Revelation might be that precursor that was like warning us about what the plan was, so to
Right.
speak. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that, the powers that be actually wrote the Bible to control us, like a lot of people say. But I often wonder. I always reserve the
I
possibility.
I don't know if it's that. I mean, if their plans go that far back, because people in power tend to fight over things unless there's some sort of magic ring involved. But there's a lot of things that are shifting at the top. One of the great things, about power is that aside from staying hidden, is that it creates this weird ethereal list, which is, if you ask any conspiracy person what their top 20 groups were in order of importance of who runs the world, no one would ever get anything done because no one knows, right, exactly who it is. I mean, just rattling off the names itself, like the Council of Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Vatican, the Masons, the Rockefeller, the Bilderbergs. It goes on at the Illuminati.
All the trigger words to get this video taken down.
Exactly. It's no. You can mention those words.
Oh,
I think. But I just call them the authority, which is, now how far back do they go? I mean, a lot of people say, well, the Rothschilds, they're the most important. I'm going, look, the Rothschilds are actually fairly new in the game compared. They made most of their giant fortune.
Wasn't it around Napoleon's time that there was
War of 1812.
Yeah.
I mean, that they made their big move during the Battle of Waterloo. And that's it's a couple hundred years ago, but it isn't 600 years ago. It's not the old families.
Yeah, there was like Rosicrucians and the
I mean, if you want
Catholic,
if you want the oldest, you should look at the remnants of the Holy Roman, the Empire. The Roman Empire didn't get completely snuffed out. There's a concentration of power over there. They've got their own little city country, and they've stored up a lot of information, but I have no idea where I was. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to comment on your thing where I try to stay positive, but don't get me wrong, right? My demeanor, if I'm not laughing, I'm probably crying, because there's a lot of, there are certain websites I go to, doom and gloom websites, forums, like one of them's Godlike Productions. And I go there and I just refresh it. And it's been up for decades, right? And they're always looking for, there's always some red flashing light going off. And there it's like, oh, watch out for this and watch out for that. And I'm looking and most of the time 99% of the time they're wrong. It's like, it didn't happen. But in these last couple of years, they've been, they even caught them off guard. It was like, what's happening? I didn't know what's going on. I'm still waiting for something big. I've been calling for an event since April of last year. Which is
the FF, the false.
Oh, no, not even. Well, yeah, it would be that, but it would be something along the lines of like Project Blue Beam, something huge,
like an invasion or something.
Yeah, something freaking huge. I roll the dice. It kind of reminds me of you ever see the movie Cabin in the Woods?
Sounds familiar.
The staged horror movie by Joss Whedon, where the 5 kids go in this cabin, but it's completely manipulated. It's completely artificial. And they have to choose something. Oh, if you haven't seen it, you gotta see it.
Is it a horror movie? Or?
Yeah, it's a horror movie. But
I forget if I've seen it or not.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods, and the whole concept is the government picked 5 kids to go into the cliche cabin in the woods, right? And then the kids go into the basement and they pick an artifact, right? Mm-hmm. And whatever artifact they pick, that's what monster is going to haunt them for the rest of the show. But it's got to be voluntarily, right? And anyway, because the government does this on such a regular basis, they're in their big lab at the thing, and there's all these people, and there's a big chart, and they're like placing bets, informally, and over what it's going to be, and that's kind of how I look at it. It's like it could be anything. It could be it could be an invasion. It could be a Chinese thing. It could be a staged UFO thing, which would be really cool. I'm rooting for that. It could be a zombie apocalypse. It could be.
Well, it could be all the above. I mean, in some ways, I feel like the zombie apocalypse is imminent because of the mind control thing. I feel like, anybody that hasn't been injected, so to speak, may not be controllable in that sense.
If you go down that road, the only reason I'm hesitant about that is because I'm old enough to remember the whole smart meter thing from 10 years ago, where smart meters, they were going to be bolted on the side. That's what was going to take people down, and they didn't. So when I've been here, and I won't mention the names, but I've been hearing about the technology linked to the other things, that are in you. Mm-hmm. And that they can just turn it on with a switch. If you were going to do it, let's put it this way. If you were going to go down that road, that would be intriguing, because that's all blue team. Here's by the way, let's talk in code here for a second. Mm-hmm. Here's one of the stats that really put in perspective for me. 92% of blue team registered voters got it. 92%.
Yeah, I actually heard the stat. It was like 50% of the red team,
and 50% of red team, and most of them were senior citizens, only because they were told, they was like, oh, those you're doctors, because those senior citizens, red team, they're listening to their doctors, plain and simple, because all they care about is staying alive to spend their money, and that's 50%. So if you all of a sudden turned on, well, you wouldn't worry about the red team people because they're older, those people, but if you turned on the blue team, what the hell's going to happen? Come on, I mean. Riot season last year, the blue team is terrible at a lot of things. And one of the things they're really terrible at is fighting. The right fights. Blue team does not. The only thing they learned from 100 days in Portland was how to use umbrellas and bike helmets. That's it. And the occasional firework.
Oh yeah. So you're are you in Bremerton? I'm trying to remember.
No, but north of Bremerton.
Port Angeles.
No, wait. Well, that's that way. That's the I'm north by Everett.
Oh, okay. I used to live in Seattle in Magnolia, so I'm kind
of really.
Yeah,
I lived in Magnolia for a year. My family grew up there.
Thorndike was the road I was on. If you know where that is, it overlooked the big train tracks between Queen Anne Hill.
Yeah.
And I have a straight shot of Mount Rainier from our window.
Yeah, right on. But my mom grew up there. My uncle grew up there. In fact, my mom went to Queen Anne High School.
Yeah, so I was only there for like a year, but I just think about like all the shenanigans that took place, when they built that little the zone city within a city over there.
Oh, that was an interesting experiment to let that happen, because full well it was infiltrated, and you could watch and see. Again, that was all left, all blue team, and it didn't go well. I mean, they couldn't hold it. It was hanging on by a thread, and it degraded into anarchy fairly quickly, to where people died. So no, it was now Portland. That was interesting. I'm wondering if some of the Portland cops actually just enjoyed it after a while, because he was like, all right, let's get out there. I mean, because there was no threat. It's not like your European protests or really, really angry, union protests. These were just freaking kids that were screwing around with, waving off tear gas canisters. It's ridiculous. There's absolutely, I mean, every law enforcement and military guy I talked to said the same thing. It's like, what? All of you, a few live rounds, that protest is over permanently. And they didn't. It was like the kids didn't realize this. They thought it was just, they were playing games. That's all it was. It's like, you have no idea. You're working with, you're up against guys that at any given point could make it very real. And you're coming back day after day and raging, whatever. bunch of crap.
Yeah, I kind of follow that, but honestly, I'm right up the road. I mean, I'm in Boise, Idaho, but
Yeah.
I mean, our area is like total red state for the
Oh yeah,
most.
well I was just there.
Oh, really?
I was in Coeur d'Alene 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's really the reason we're hugely red. I mean, my city particularly is kind of trending blue because just the hub of our area.
Right.
The bigger cities always end up being
Bigger
blue.
cities are blue.
Yeah. So, but for the majority of the state, like across the state, is red, just because we have a lot more territory, farmers and
Right.
hunters and all that. But
Right.
and honestly, I like Idaho for that. And I try not to be political anymore. I only like politics for the sake of viewing lens of understanding things.
Well,
And,
you understand a lot about people through politics, that's for sure. I'm not a registered voter. I've never been a registered voter. I don't think I can technically be a registered voter for a whole nother thing. But I get it. But you got to remember, most of the population is, one or the other. But you learn a lot about in fact, I have never seen it so polarized, never seen it so biased as what we've seen over the last couple of years. So, which is why I made the video called "For All the Marbles." Both teams, red team and blue team, they're out. It's winner take all, which is they blue team wants the red team removed from the map, and red team would like to see blue team under the boot heel. And it's not, there's no friendly discourse anymore. It's everyone's out for permanence.
And personally, I feel like it's kind of a Hegelian dialectic. They're just creating a division or creating a problem, and then we're going to all have to. I mean, I think that with the division that's taking place, and in a lot of ways, this was predicted. Like the sheep and the goats are going to be separated in the end, and I think that that's what's happening. Sheep's well, anyways, forget that rabbit trail, but. I just so I'm aware that with all the censorship, it kind of stemmed from like this discussion, and in my and now we can't even have a doctor. In fact, one of the doctors that's local here is becoming very well known. He's been on the high wire with Del Bigtree. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they do a lot of discussing about the the injection and stuff, and how they're trying to control everything now. So this doctor I want to interview on my channel because he endorses the horse pill, so to speak.
Ah, yes. The animal treatment.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I mean, it's crazy to me that I can't have a doctor give his side of the story, because it's so taboo.
That's not the narrative. The narrative is right now, which is it's something, again, I'm trying to put a positive spin on it, but I was joking back in the day when I said it, which is, it's like if you were asking for volunteers for the end of the world, right? No one would volunteer. They would if you left out that part. Hey, would you like to volunteer for something really beneficial and safe for you? Is it really? Yeah, because we said so. Yeah. Would you volunteer for it? And a whole bunch of people did.
Yeah, you can believe us.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? That leads me in a whole nother thing. And we probably should talk about flat Earth. We're gonna
do this. This is already destroyed.
That's right. So, but I want to mention this real fast, which is this ties into flat Earth, and we can segue into it. And that is that people, it's funny, people have their own comfort zones, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone knows that this world is filled with layers and layers and layers and layers of deception. That's all it is, right? There's tons, people lie about everything all the time. Whether it's politics, business, sports, entertainment, and even science and journalism all day long. I could spend a day on each one of those easily.
Yep.
Just talking about those. But the wheelhouse that most people are in, everyone's got this weird imaginary line, which is everything inside this box I believe in. That's my comfort zone. And everything outside of it, that's scary and weird. And I don't want to lose sleep. So I'm not going to think about that. And it's weird. They create this artificial bubble. And that's where, and if the media can reach inside that, for some reason, they buy it. It's this weird, they all you do is reach it right inside and kind of wave at them, and the people are like, oh yeah, that seems legit. What? No matter how weird it is. No, and again, I have learned some things in the last couple of years. One is there is a group, at least half the population, at least half, that absolutely whatever is on the news is absolutely objectively, put it in a frame, true.
Yep.
And they will not question it. They will not question it. And I get it. Conformity builds empires. I totally get that. But we segue into the flat earth thing, which is like, but what I try to tell you is like, there's an old saying, trust everyone, but count your change. Because if you don't, and they notice it, they are going to stiff you every single time. People, the last line would be, the line, I love it because it wasn't Heath Ledger that came out. It was from the Joker from the Batman movie, where he goes, people are only good as the system allows them to be, which it's true. People will try to get away with everything they can, at any given point. I worked in the time and attendance timekeeping software. People will lie, cheat, and steal if they know they can get away with it without punishment. Yeah. And so when people come back to me, it's like, well, okay, they'll lie about the moon landing and they'll lie about, JFK, and they'll lie about all these other conspiracies, but they won't lie about the shape of the earth because that's just too big. It's like, no. You just think it's too big.
And more often than not, they're just going to say, well, I don't know why they would need to lie about that.
Because they can't, they can't think big enough. And just about everybody I've talked to over the last 6 years about this, that's one of the big things they throw at me, which is, okay, why would you lie? Why would you lie about the shape of the earth? In fact, I'll name drop. Piers Morgan loved it. He threw that at me, and I called him on it. And I go, so.
Oh yeah, that's right. You did it.
Yeah, I did. Where he had one of our astronauts sitting right next to him, at Terry Virts, and I go, really? You'd break that story? Really? you because your knee-jerk reaction is, well, the people have a right to know. I go, okay, but this is so huge. This would be so big that this is beyond your ability to release it. Meaning, you would want to release it, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, could this have potential ramifications? So anyway, everybody says, okay, because it's one of the hottest questions, which is, why would you do it? Why not tell people the true shape of the earth? It's like, well, no, you could have done it a long time ago. You can't do it now. Kind of like if you, I'll give you a comparison. You hear the stories about guys, weird engineers that all of a sudden come up with an engine that creates a unified field or runs on water and stuff like that, right? And all of a sudden they disappear and the engine never sees the light of day.
Yeah.
Why?
This is the kind of work I was interested in before the FE. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I remember like perpetual motion, like motors, like
yeah, free energy machines and stuff like that. Oh yeah. Well, the thing is, they're great ideas, fantastic, would benefit society. The problem is when a civilization reaches a certain point where all their industry is based off the old tech, the old tech is what you have to use, because you can't, it's gotten so big and so broad, you can't just change over. If you try to change over, everything else collapses and you lose. I mean, you could potentially lose the whole ball of wax. You could lose all of civilization. So like, for example, people said, well, why, if they, the unified field engine, the engine that supposedly powers UFOs, the Jetsons cars, basically the whole simulated gravity thing where you can alter physics and you can move basically an object around as fast as you want. It's like, well, why don't we release that? It's like, oh, you mean release a Jetsons car now? You release that now. Okay, here's what happens. The automobile industry collapses. The boat industry collapses. Aircraft industry collapses. And all those jobs and all the subcontract jobs and everything tied to those industries collapse. And the whole thing just goes like a souffle. It's just gone. and you want to do and no, there are industries out there. It's like, which is why if someone ever came out of the petroleum industry, they are out on the hunt. They have gobs and gobs and gobs of liquid cash. They send people out all the time. They even hear a whisper about somebody making an engine that doesn't use gasoline.
Yeah.
They are on them, and they come to them and they say, okay, here's the deal. We're going to show you 2 briefcases here. This briefcase over here is basically an unlimited bank account for you. And this briefcase over here has a 9mm with a silencer in it. Which one are you going to pick? and it's because you have the carrot and the stick at the same time. That way, it's very good leverage. You hit them both sides. So if I come to you, segue into the flat earth thing. If you don't figure out that the world is flat, and you can't because you don't have the tech, you don't have the aircraft. Remember, good aircraft has only been around since the 1950s, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't figure it out to almost 1960, and then you figure it out, what do? Do you tell the people? And people in power, one of the top 5 rules is don't take the risk. Don't take the chance. You don't leave anything to chance, which is if there's a 5% chance that the people will lose their minds and run through the streets with pitchforks and torches, like going after Frankenstein, but you don't do it. So if all of a sudden, if you told people, it's like, okay, again, Illuminati meeting, ready? Really quick. Everyone's dark room. Everybody's smoking. You can barely see it. People are talking in gravelly voices like Batman. And he says, okay, what's the worst that could happen? And one of the guys says, well, let's see. All universities, astronomy and astrophysics would be gone forever. Then geology, archaeology, biology, anything with ethnology, those things would have to be retooled. Libraries would have to be emptied out. And that's every university in every country. So I don't know, tens of thousands of institutions would be just in chaos. Economically, world markets would have to close for months. And religiously, all the churches would come after science with swords.
Yeah.
and it's like, and that's just the openers.
I look at all this stuff like a lot of there are whistleblowers that come forward all the time, and they just
but this is,
I'm not saying whistleblowers for that, but there are whistleblowers for just things in general. People, they kind of have a small following, but usually they're just equated to be like some psychotic case or whatever.
For small things. Yes, you can whistleblow on small things. The big things, they don't leave to chance. There was a wonderful movie out there from the 70s called 3 Days of the Condor. Brilliant movie about CIA on CIA crime. Robert Redford was working for a think tank. The think tank accidentally discovered some code that was in books that was basically saying the United States was weird in the 70s, was going to take the Middle East entirely, right? And
that's weird.
I know, right? And so the CIA, I know, weird, right? What are the odds?
Conditioning it's a pet finest right there.
Yeah, and so this branch of the CIA just wipes out the whole think tank. But one of the guys, Redford's out getting sandwiches, and he's smart enough, because he reads books all day, but he figures out a way to dodge and bob and weave. And at the end of the show, this gets in your whistleblower part. At the end of the show, he's telling his boss on the street, and they meet in a public place, so he can't grab him. He goes, doesn't matter. I already gave it to him, right? And the New York Times building is right behind him. He goes, what did you do? He goes, they've got it. They know. And he goes, his boss goes, yeah, but how do you know they'll run it? And he goes, they'll run it. He goes, how do you know? And basically what he was saying was, we've got people, in every media thing, which is emails are monitored, phone calls are monitored. The old school tricks have never, ever changed. And there are things at the highest level, they watch certain people to make sure secrets don't get leaked ever. Sorry, one more real fast, which is, I'll give you a great example. Later in the 70s, there was a movie called Capricorn 1, brilliant movie about the fake Mars program. The thing that
O.J. Simpson in that one?
Yeah, O.J. Simpson is an astronaut who gets hunted down and killed. Brilliant. Charles Bronson, the father of Thanos.
I saw him in real life. He drove a Lamborghini past our car when we were driving on the freeway.
Right on. Yeah, it was a cool show, but the part that haunted me in that movie was something I've never seen in any other movie, and it was a fairly light movie considering the topic, right? which was when the software engineer that worked for NASA, when he was talking to the reporter at the bar, and they're just having a conversation, having drinks, playing pool, and he says, he says in just one sentence, he goes, well, it's just crazy. He goes, the broadcast couldn't have come from 70 miles away, right? And within 30 seconds, there's a phone call at the bar, and there was no cell phones back then, for the reporter. It's a fake phone call. It's a distraction. That's all it is. Reporter goes up to the bar. He goes, what? Sorry, I can't hear you. Hangs up the phone, turns around. His friend's gone, right? The drink's still on the table. His friend's gone. You heard nothing. You saw nothing. It was completely off camera. And then the scarier part was when the reporter goes to check on his friend a couple days later at his apartment, there's another lady living there. The compartment has completely changed. And even the magazines on the coffee table have the right name and address of the woman who's living there. It's like his friend was erased, like he was never existed at all. He called up NASA, that guy never worked here. And that's the type of things, again, the things that most people aren't comfortable with, which is, look, secrets can be kept and people are monitored. Basically, what I was saying was that particular engineer, once they knew he was going off reservation for a little bit, they had people on him. They had people in the bar. They had probably people with microphones. And the second that they saw him committing to a certain way, I was like, nope, he is gone. And that is, not just gone. The line from that movie back in the 80s, they locked him in a room and threw away the room, right? So sorry.
And again, I feel like a lot of that could be like conjecture, speculation, or whatever. But I can't help but think that was the fate of Gus Grissom.
Well, I mean, you can. All right. You can say, it might be conjecture, but yeah, Gus Grissom, he was the guy. All right. Great example of that. He was supposed to be the first astronaut on the moon. He was the right stuff. You watched him in the movie. He was the lead guy. He was the alpha male among alpha males, right? He was the guy, a true American hero. The problem is that when they were doing the psychological profile on him, they also realized, oh, crap. He's not going to go along with it. He's just not. In fact, he was criticizing the program early. It didn't make any sense to him. The plot holes, he could already see them. He's like, this is just, and he was public about it. He was not shy about being in the camera. He was told people the way it was. He was like a Chuck Yeager. Chuck Yeager probably would have done the same thing if he would have been in the space program. And so, did he die in that capsule? Maybe.
Or he might have been removed somehow.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe they just said he died in the capsule. But yeah, I mean, and he was pulled from the program, and then Neil Armstrong and John Glenn and all those guys, they continue with the program.
In some ways, if that's a real story, if our conjecture is true, he's kind of a hero of mine.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Again, I don't think of it as conjecture because, again, the Qualified did when we started this thing, which was and I know, again, you probably don't think along those lines because, you try not to lose sleep. I've lost a lot of sleep, which is, would you have done the same thing if you are in the position of power and you have people that you can't trust for whatever reason? What do you do? If you can't reason them, maybe you did sit down with Gus. Maybe you did sit down. It was like, hey, man, come on. Well, remember from Capricorn 1, the conversation. Okay, here's the part that wasn't realistic about Capricorn 1, right? These guys were Air Force officers, career military guys, right? All of them. And they were talking, and they put them in this room in this Air Force base, and they're talking like they're completely blue team. It's like, well, they question their values and morals. And I know they were doing it for the plot, and I know the writers were blue team, but that's not how it would have gone down. The conversation would have been, no, we're doing it for God and country, and we're going to do this. And come on, once, and even after they threatened their family, and again, I know it was for the plot device, you had to keep the plot thing going. Well, even though when they threatened their families, like, no, we're going to make a break for it anyway. It's like, even though your family might just straight up die because you ran. And at the end, that happy ending where the astronaut's running and the cameras are there. Oh, no. That's not how it would have ended. Oh, I'm sorry. It ended with that shot, but the follow-up would have been, all right, you're grabbing the camera crew, you're grabbing the camera people. There was a terrorist event here. Everybody died. you would have done anything to keep that story flattened.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. What else?
I don't know. I just think that, I think that the plot that they have going on now is the biggest plot of all. And,
yes,
obviously this whole 2014, 15 time frame when the FE kind of took root and really shifted the direction of a lot of people like us, in the sense that we're willing to venture down the rabbit hole, no matter how painful it is going down that path. And I always try to promote, just go down where the evidence leads. And but then there's that variable of, like, everybody interprets things the way they want to. But I mean, I'm constantly looking at the mainstream proofs. I'm trying to remember, when it was John Glenn or somebody, whoever went up and did
the podium speech.
No. The one where they were up and there was like some sort of stop motion animation.
Where he turned his helmet.
It was like swivel.
The straight up stop motion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I talked to my brother about that once. I was like, take a look at this video and tell me if that isn't stop motion animation.
Yeah.
And he was like kind of floored. He's like, I can't argue against that. And even to this day, he doesn't believe my perspective. And but he, I was like, I know you probably think I'm a moron. He's like, actually, no, I don't think you're a moron. I think a lot of what you're saying has some validity to it, but I just can't bring myself to bring. And it's the same argument with everybody. I can't bring myself to believe this because it's too big of a conspiracy.
Yeah. And that's the whole qualifier, which is it's too big, therefore I can't believe in it. I know. Which drove me nuts. I've had people even try to shrink it down. They say, okay, fine, the Apollo missions were terribly done, but that doesn't mean the ISS is fake. I'm going, what? I go, look, that's one of the first rules of crime. If you shoot one person, you got to shoot everybody because the punishment's the same. You're not going to fake the moon mission and then say the ISS is real.
I know. So you were saying the Jetsons technology, right?
Right.
Some sort of craft the Jetsons created, but way back in the day, right?
Right. Yeah. Flying saucer technology, basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. And real quick, I never got a chance to tell you, but the company that I was working for prior to April of this year, I'm now running my own business. But I had been doing that up until April. It was just a side business. But I work for a company doing manufacturing for, control boards or, the brains of like big equipment. And we actually did like balloon satellites. We did a lot of just satellites in general, a lot of satellite technology.
Right.
And, I know satellites exist, but I also know that we worked on balloon satellites, which is funny because I remember when nobody would ever, like when I was telling people before we ever started doing balloon satellites, I was like, I've been seeing a lot of balloon satellites, and they're like, no way, And then,
no, it's not even a secret. It's not even classified material. I mean, we've been doing balloon satellites before there were rockets. I mean, come on. It does. Why would anyone? And I've challenged people. I go, and you can watch videos on this. If you can launch a payload with a balloon of 4 tons for pennies, I mean, fractions of a penny on the dollar compared to a rocket, why would you ever put a big payload on a rocket? Ever? I mean, with the balloon technology, which we pretty much perfected now, you can keep those things up there for a long, 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 long time. And they move really slow, and you can do a lot of stuff with them. And again, and if you want, if you're sneaky, you can charge people and say, oh yeah, it's going to cost you X $100 million to put this on the rocket. You don't use the rocket, or you set up a fake rocket, or use the same rocket, just use the footage. It's like, oh, here's the rocket your thing went on. Yeah. I mean, again, the people, David Weiss was the first people to say, like, look, NASA's the biggest consumer and producer now of helium in the world. Why would that be? Why would NASA be the biggest producer of helium in the world? It's like it doesn't.
It's because they're using it in shuttles. Because
Yeah, exactly.
according
Oh
to
yeah.
Weiss, I thought that was an
But
interesting.
by the way, the shuttle thing, real quick, on a side note, the astronaut that we went and visited, one of the Challenger guys, we went to his house in the snow.
Oh, you did that?
Oh, yeah. There's a video on my channel. I'm really surprised it didn't get taken down. And what was interesting to me, because there's certain facial things. One of Hollywood's things that they never got right was they can't. You've seen it with all mainstream actors. You have a young actor, you can't really make them look older without it looking like it's like, oh, I just put some makeup on. It doesn't look the same. When you age naturally, you have a certain look to you, which they just cannot fake.
Yeah.
And there's certain facial things when you look at the Challenger people that it's absolutely that person 30 or 40 years later, right? Anyway, they're interviewing him in his driveway.
Oh, I've seen the video, but I thought that you said you were there.
No. I wasn't there. No, one of our guys was.
Yeah.
I mean, found him. It's like, oh yeah. What got me, what got me was what he didn't say. It wasn't what he said. It was he didn't say. And one of the first things you do if you're accused of being someone or something, first thing you would do is you would have an alibi. You'd have an alibi for 1986. You'd say, oh no, I remember when that happened. I was in such and such in 1986, right?
I remember.
Nope, he didn't say any of that. That's the first thing you would do, because everyone knows with alibi. Nope, I wasn't there. Every cop show, I was here during such and such, right? Doing whatever he was. In fact, and in fact, he couldn't even help himself. At one point, it's like, well, yeah, whoever I heard about him must have been a heck of a guy. It's like, oh, you cocky bastard. He was he was basically doing everything he could not to say it, but I'm sure that even they thought back in the day, which was witness relocation. Well, who cares? There was no internet back in 1986, not even close. Ah, so great.
Yeah, I mean that got me early on too. I couldn't believe. I mean, it was hard for me to deny that. A lot of those even had the same names and
Same names. They're all about the same age, the same age, the same. One of them, I think, died of natural causes. Two were supposedly twins
yeah.
of each other. It's like, all right, twins. I get it. And you can say, well, we've got the Kelly brothers. Those are twins. Like, yeah, I guess, but we weren't known for twins back in the day. Plus, I've got that photograph sitting on my machine. What got me later was, they were posing with these motorcycle helmets. Right? They were motorcycle helmets. And I'm going, they weren't pressurized helmets at all. I'm going, oh, well, those are display helmets, obviously for the photos, you want to switch it out with something else. And then I watched some of the videos from the 80s and that's the actual helmets. They were wearing just motorcycle helmets and you could see their necks, like they're bare necks, short sleeve shirts, no gloves, nothing. And I'm going, oh, right. It was the 80s. And we just didn't care back then. We didn't pay attention to any of that, because there was only 3 channels early on and there was, no one recorded anything, and even if you did, why would you record? Oh, it's just ridiculous. Amazing what they got away with. Amazing.
Yeah. I was just reminded that you were the guy that had the standing offer to put you in a spacesuit in the in the room.
Put me in a vacuum chamber.
Yeah.
Put me in a vacuum chamber.
You haven't gotten that offer yet.
No, yeah, you'd think you'd want to off me by doing that and say, oh,
yeah, you could have one of those swivel helmet ones that have like the ball bearings inside of
that. Well, that was the other thing that I put out there in a later clue, which was I go, with all the astronaut stuff we've done for the last 50, 60 years, there should be tons and tons and tons and tons of hours of astronauts in freaking vacuum chambers. And there's not. There's not. In fact, you go on YouTube and type in, man in vacuum chamber, spacesuit in vacuum chamber. You come up with James May from Top Gear from Britain going with a G-force suit into a tiny little Air Force chamber. Why is he the number one search? And why are there all the astronauts are training in swimming pools? It's like, yeah, but that's the opposite. That's pressure going in. It's the last thing you would ever try. It's like, well, no, for that floaty feeling, which leads me to something else, which is, are you on the moon? Oh. On the moon, remember, it's supposedly 1/6 Earth gravity, right? It means a 180-pound man weighs 30 pounds. So why are you moving slower? If anything, you'd be moving really fast because everything about you is moving fast. Everything about you is light. I mean, You weigh freaking nothing. You could be, you're ding, 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 ding. And it's like, no, ding, ding, ding. It's like really slow motion. I'm going, nope, nope, nope. Feats of strength, nope. We always, I mean, you got to remember, 108. If you weigh 30 pounds and these guys were in shape, the vertical jump would be amazing. Amazing. Six times what normally you could pick up the moon rubber, right? Everything would be just a freaking cakewalk. But no, all you have to do is, again, slow down the frame rate by 50%. Oh, look at that. And I'm sorry, one more thing, which is real quick, which is the part that bugged me wasn't the United States people. It was the people overseas that I ran into. Yeah. I said, look, I get it. All the Americans, like the lady from Fox News said, I believe in the moon mission because I'm a patriot. It's like, okay. So basically she's saying whatever the government tells you, you better believe it. It's like, okay, she was a press secretary at one point for Bush, but who cares? Which is, I asked the people overseas, I said, okay, why do you believe the Americans went to the moon? They all said the exact same thing. You know what they said?
Because the news said it.
Yeah, because it was on television.
Yeah.
It's like, that's it. It was on American television. Therefore, it must be true. I got news for you. That ain't it. But I mean, again, that's what we told people. And come on, I mean, I was doing an Egypt trip before this, and I remember there's all these school kids coming up to me. Right? This will give you an idea of what I'm talking about, of the power of media. And all these cool school kids were coming up to me, and I'm going, why are these kids swarming me? I said, well, you're the first American they've seen outside of television. I'm going, and so what? And they go, well, American television. You go, all those shows is the wonderful way Americans live. I go, what shows are you watching exactly over here in Egypt? Right? And they say, the American dream. Dallas, Dynasty, Falcon's Crest, all these shows about amazing millionaires that just have drama in their lives, but they all live on, massive acreage, and, money isn't even an issue. And it's like, that's all they show over there. You get it? We've portrayed, in that one little instance, we've portrayed stuff in certain Middle Eastern countries that America is larger than life. They still, I mean, and their aspiration for as many of them over there is what? What do you think? It's to come over here. I go, come over where? They go, to the new world. I go, we haven't called it that for about 100 and something years. The new world.
So I guess everybody still wants to come over here.
They do. They do. They still think America's the land of opportunity, and I mean,
to some degree it is, but
it's not what it was.
It's fleeting.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm afraid to be a business owner nowadays.
Oh yeah. Well, in the last 2 years, it's everything's.
I mean, I fell back on this, and honestly, I've made pretty good money. Like this summer, I actually made really good money, but compared to what I was making. In fact, I just branched out in a new area of my business that is kind of a risk, but in a lot of ways, I'm already noticing that it's probably going to be pretty fruitful. It's weird because, and again, I look at a lot of things on a spiritual level because I feel like this is just one facet of our reality. I mean, there's a lot more going on, I think. Like before, we even started, I said that, I always say I'm 70-30 in favor of the flat realm or whatever. And I know you probably hear a lot of people say, my biggest reason for not going the full 100 is because I don't want to sound arrogant, because I feel like there's too many things to account for to put all your eggs in one basket. And
I hear you.
So really, it's just the hesitance that I have for certain things. You
would be, and again, I don't blame you. Most of the people I have talked to in this sort of format have said the same thing. I mean, hell, I'll give you a couple quick examples. Alex Jones, back in 2016, producers contacted me and said, okay, how long can we do a flat earth show without actually saying the words flat earth? I go, maybe 10 minutes, maybe. And that's if I dance around a little bit. And they go, yeah, sorry, we can't take the chance of the backlash. I have run, it was the reason why 90%. I have, there's so very few hosts that I have talked to that have said something different than what you're saying. In fact, I've heard in so many different ways, like, well, I'm not a flat earther, but I want to hear what he has to say, or I'm not a flat earther, I believe it's round. I love when they use that. But I think it's an interesting topic, and we should discuss it. But most of I cannot count the times that how many people have said, I'm scared to death of doing this podcast because I'm afraid of the backlash. I'm afraid of what might happen because I don't want to come off as some freaking kook. 90% at least of our membership are still in the closet. Yeah. That includes captains of industry, celebrities, everybody. I've got family members that are on board. They're like, oh yeah, absolutely love what you're doing. Oh yeah, we're not coming out about this. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'll just tell you, I'm happy to discuss it with anybody. I love bringing it up to people that are non-believers. I actually, I advocate for it because I feel like that discussion needs to be had. Now, for me, that 30% that I was telling you about. Yeah. I kind of reserve to like say maybe it's the Matrix or some sort of presentation.
That's a wonderful segue, which I have to throw this in there because I know we don't have that much time left, which is I only start with flat Earth because the general population, remember, I go to the lowest common denominator, which is people understand the term flat Earth. It's an easy concept. They've heard it for a long, long time, but I follow that with a caveat, which is say, look, if it's flat and it's enclosed, it's probably virtual. Mm-hmm. That is, it's like, why the hell wouldn't it be virtual? The Matrix was just 22 years old now. And then the 13th floor and stuff like that. People didn't get it. They watched the movie. It's like, oh, it's really cool special effects. They still didn't understand the concept. And that is, look, we're getting to the state now in our computer technology where we're discovering things that seem to mimic what is happening around us now. The double slit experiment, one of the biggest.
Yeah, I think that, that's kind of something where you can identify to maybe there being a loophole within the technology, so to speak. And now I would say that maybe it's some sort of, not necessarily computer graphics, but more so like some sort of vibrational frequency, separation. Because if you ever seen those, like the salt on the flat surface,
the acoustics,
with the acoustics vibrating underneath, and it changes position just based on the frequency. Right. And I kind of wonder if there's some sort of frequency separation between realms. You might say.
Hell, why not?
Just like channels, right?
Yeah, very, very similar. There was in fact, there was a movie with George Clooney that touched on that very thing, and I can't remember the title of it. Saved my life. But I'll give you an example real fast, and that is for people to get it, which is right now there's music all around you, right now in the air, right now, but you can't hear it because you don't have a receiver. If you had a little transistor radio, you could hear it all day long. Same thing with television. There are television channels broadcasting to you all over the place, surrounding you all the time, but you can't see them because you don't have the receiver for it. So what's the difference? Who's to say that what you are living in right now is not that?
Yeah, I mean, I started making a series based on that. Like there's I have a 3-part series where it's not 3-part. I just kind of stalled out. I just didn't make any more parts. But I've done 3 parts. And it's called Patterns of Reality. Yeah. And basically, the first part was about frequency and vibration, and I kind of went on the whole Nikola Tesla concept and how there's a lot of you can extract electricity from the air and things like that. Yeah. And there's all kinds of different things that you can look at, and I started looking at and that was that video that I had 250,000 views where. It's called Frequency of Light and Patterns of Reality. And the title of the video is actually proof the soul transcends the body and God in the afterlife, or something like that. And so basically, there's some sort of intelligence that transcends the our physical nature, and I'm just fascinated by that topic for some reason. I think that there's something bigger than our this what we perceive here.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And if again, other things to look at. Two things, real quick. If you may have heard of one of them called 21 grams, which is the Germans, always the freaking Germans, we're measuring things when people died, and they noticed that when the body died,
Oh yeah, I've heard.
Instantly lost 21 grams worth of weight, which is a little weird. And there's a scientist like, oh no, it's because of this and that, and it's like, I don't know, that seems pretty weird, and it doesn't happen with animals, it only happens with people. It's like, okay. But the other thing, if you want to look up some weird stuff, there's been different shows on it, and then they don't know what to deal with because science hates the topic, even though they're the ones that found it. It was called what was it called? Something in free will, neuroscience and free will, which is, do we actually have free will? So what they did was they hooked a helmet, electrodes up to somebody's head, like that's what you do, and hook it up to a computer, and you start hitting numbers on your computer, and you say, okay, pick a number between 1 and 9, and note the time that you picked it, right?
Yeah.
And they were measuring brain waves, and so it's like, say, pick a number between 9, and all of a sudden you think 4, right? And you say, and of course, people are most of the time hitting it instantly, right after they think about it. What was interesting is that the computer could tell not the number they were going to pick, we're not that good, but could tell when you were going to pick the number 8 seconds before you picked it. That's a little weird because that's before your actual thought of picking the number.
So that kind of goes into the mindset that the brain is really just the antenna somehow.
Exactly.
Receives whatever instruction from whatever transcends it.
And science hates it because it screams predestination, which goes into, and let's one of those things we'll end on here, get close to ending on, which is, it's not that you may not just be living in a virtual reality, wherever you want to call it, a frequency reality. It may not just be that. You may be living in a virtual movie. Think about this for a second, which is, you make the choices beforehand, before you come in, and then all you have, because it's way more efficient, and then all you do is you block the memory that you made the choice beforehand. It's sort of like, I'll give you a quick example. You are the director of a film, right? And you make the movie, you make all the choices, Orson Welles style. You pick the actors, you pick the music, you pick the sets, you pick everything. And then just before the premiere, you bump your head on a door and you have temporary amnesia, right? And it's like, well, go to the premiere anyway. So you go to the movie, right? Everyone else, they're just watching a movie. But for you, it's the greatest movie ever because you agree with absolutely everything that's on screen. It's like, those are the perfect actors. That's the perfect music. It's like this movie was made for me, and it's the most mind-blowing thing ever. But you don't remember that you made the movie. It's way more efficient. There are people nowadays, and the kids, it drives me nuts, that they're so lazy, they don't play video games. They watch other people playing video games, right? Recordings. But think about that for a second, because when you're watching someone else play a video game, the suspension of disbelief is you forget that they're not playing it live. You're watching a recording. Well, that recording is this tiny little MP4 file, right? Mm-hmm. It's way more efficient. It's nothing. There's nothing real time about it, but your mind can't break out of that. You're watching it and you're like, oh yeah, you're getting all the fun and games out of it, but it's not, but it's just a fraction. It's just this little cube of information. And anyway, there's so many cool aspects, but what else?
Yeah, we could continue to talk about all the different angles, and honestly, I'm happy and excited that I had an opportunity to talk with you. And I'm part of this community, whether I like to say I'm 100% or not. I am part of this community, and I'm not afraid to admit that I'm 100% flat earther. I actually say I'm a flat earther oftentimes. But I will not say that I'm a globe earther because I think it's all.
Oh, good. Well, at least, well, yeah, don't do that. Oh, which again, that's one of our mantras anyway, as you know, which is regardless how much you agree with the community on different things, everyone at the end of the day agrees with which is why the community's grown and grown and grown and grown. which is everyone agrees on exactly one point, which is, yeah, nobody believes in the globe anymore.
Yeah.
They'll argue all day long about the shape and size and the energy that's building the system, but at the end it's like, yeah, the globe's a piece of crap.
We all agree that NASA means never a straight answer.
Yeah, never a straight answer. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I guess so. Is there any, in the last minute here, is there anything, and again, I'm not holding to this 1 minute thing.
Right.
You can make it 3 minutes if you want.
Yeah.
But maybe if there's a good takeaway for the audience here, because again, I would say there's probably 80% of my audience that is probably not on board with flat Earth. I mean,
good. Then I got a message for him.
Yeah. So maybe give your closing thoughts on that.
Okay. My closing thoughts are this. Take everything I have said, flat Earth or not, with a grain of salt. I am not here to convince you. I'm not here to persuade you. I'm just here to throw out some ideas and see if they resonate with you. But in the end, you're going to have to figure it out for yourself. Meaning, do your own research. Don't be lazy. Do your own research. Ask questions. If you condemn it without researching it, that's just straight up ignorance. If you want to say that flat earthers are absolutely crazy, ask yourself why. And I'll end it with this quote, which is a quote from George Orwell. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'll read it this time. Normally, I just kind of paraphrase it, but I'm going to read it really fast. George Orwell wrote this in 1946. He said, "Most people, if asked to prove that the Earth is round, would not even bother to produce the rather weak arguments I have outlined above in the article. They would start off by saying that everyone knows the Earth to be round, and if pressed further, would become angry. In a way, Shaw was right. This is a credulous age, and the burden of knowledge which we now have to carry is partly responsible." And what he was saying is that science gets away with stuff because they're scientists. Just because somebody wears a lab coat doesn't mean that they're smarter than you. All right? So you have to ask yourself, in 1946, how did everybody in the world know that it was a globe? NASA wasn't even founded until 1958. It wasn't that they knew, is that they were told. Those are two completely different things. You were told a lot of things by a lot of mainstream sources. Why do you believe them? Now, if you trust in mainstream implicitly, hey, great, fine, good for you. Take the blue pill, continue on your way. But if you look into this, and I'm warning you, this is my last parting shot. If you look into this, be careful, because there is a point of no return, sort of like the Matrix, where once you get past it, you can't go back because there's nothing to go back to. If you were the one, remember, I wasn't the one, in the end, you'll have to figure out the globe thing for yourself. So if you tear down the globe yourself with your own hands, and you change your mind later, tough luck, because there's nothing to go back to and you're kind of stuck, which is why Rob said, the day I ruined his life, because he couldn't go back to his old life. He wanted to in some ways, but he couldn't. Once you're awake, like Neo, you can't be not awake. There you go.
Yep. Well, yeah, I mean, and by the way, there's a Matrix 4 coming out. It's I think it's out in
why?
I think that maybe it's conditioning somehow. Just wait, there's gonna be a message in there.
Oh, so long. I mean, come on. The first one was in 99.
I know. There's a huge fall. It's almost like I mean, it's not quite Star Wars, but I think
I want to go see it. No question. But it's like, what the hell happened? Why didn't the producers? I know they went on to do.
They transitioned, so they're trying.
We're not supposed to talk about what happened to what happens when you're creative and you have ridiculous amounts of money and then just no one to say no. Just go off on a tear. It's like, what happened to the directors? Well.
They're no longer the Wachowski brothers or the Wachowski sisters. Anyways.
In fact, yeah, I know. Well, I mean, that's a whole nother conspiracy story where they weren't even the ones that they bought the Matrix off a female writer, and they never gave her credit for it. So,
well, I mean, I think there's something to the concept, but again,
no, I like it. Double slit experiment. Look it up. I mean, again, I was in the computer game industry for several years, and I can tell you that's what we're striving for right now. Everyone's running. The irony. Everyone's running. Sorry, last parting shot. You ready? This will be kind of a fun thing to end on, which is, do you remember the old Dilbert comic strip?
Yep.
Okay. The guy from there, he wrote this forward to this book, and he was saying very insightful. He goes, the last invention we'll ever make as a civilization will be the holodeck. Back then, it was the holodeck was it, right? He goes, because once that's invented, no one will want to do anything else. which is why the Star Trek, that part of the Star Trek was just a joke, because people would be fighting over the holodeck constantly. That's all you'd want to do. In fact, you'd only work long enough to pay for your holodeck time or your personal holodeck. That's all. And every company, every tech company is striving, running, doing whatever it can to try to reach that. Not realizing that once they do, everything will change. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be allowed. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Hey, if you ever get a chance, watch my interview, and it's horrible. It's like it was my first real big interview that I've ever done, and I was just a mess. But the guy, his name's Brian Melvin.
Okay.
He had a near-death experience, and just think holodeck when you hear his near-death experience.
All right.
Because that's exactly the message that you'll get from it. So
I'll take a look.
So, anyways, but thanks, Mark, and I'll let you get back to it, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'll be looking forward to your future endeavors,
whatever they may be.
And maybe we'll stop by and visit when you come through Boise again.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, man. See you.
Right. See ya.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.